Hare Down Snowbad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Stokasa C.C. Bad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ISKCON BBT founder Acharya His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Rim Sekaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Giradha Shiva Sadi Gaura Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Radha Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Raj Bhumi Vrindavan Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Yamuna Maya Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Welcome to today's class. We're second to the last verse in the Bhagavad-Gita. Today we're reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter number 18, the perfection of renunciation, and sloka number 77. Tacha samsmritya rupam adbhutam rupam adhyadbhutam harehe Vishmayo me maharajan Rishyami cha puna puna Tacha samsmritya Rupam adhyadbhutam harehe Vishmayo me maharajan Rishyami cha puna punaha Tacha samsmritya Rupam adhyadbhutam harehe Vishmayo me maharajan Rishyami cha puna punaha Tacha samsmritya Rupam adhyadbhutam harehe Vishmayo maharajan Yashyami cha puna punaha Tacha samsmritya Rupam adhyadbhutam harehe Vishmayo me maharajan Rishyami cha puna punaha Tad, that, cha, also, samsmritya, remembering, samsmritya, remembering, rupam, form, ati, greatly, adbhutam, wonderful, harehe, of Lord Krishna, vishmayaha, wonder, may, my, mahan, great, rajan, O King, Rishyami, I am enjoying, cha, also, punaha punaha, repeatedly. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. O King, as I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more, and I rejoice again and again. Please repeat, O King, as I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more, and I rejoice again and again. Purport. It appears that Sanjay also, by the grace of Vyasa, could see the universal form Krishna exhibited to Arjuna. It is of course said that Lord Krishna never exhibited such a form before. It was exhibited to Arjuna only. Yet some great devotees could also see the universal form of Krishna when it was shown to Arjuna. And Vyasa was one of them. He was one of the great devotees of the Lord, and he is considered to be a powerful incarnation of Krishna. Vyasa disclosed to his disciple Sanjay, who remembered that wonderful form of Krishna exhibited to Arjuna and enjoyed it repeatedly. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurimalitam Yena Tasmi Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhuttale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadantika Vandayaham Sri Guruho Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sakrijatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Bharitana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Visakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gauraki Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Pranamami Hari Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Tacha Samsmritya Samsmritya Rupam Atyadbhutam Harehe Vishmayo Me Mahan Rajan Rishyami Cha Puna Punaha. O King, as I remember the wonderful form of Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more, and I rejoice again and again. So here, some words are repeated here for partly for emphasis, but not just for emphasis. Samsmritya, samsmritya. And the same in the previous verse was also samsmritya, samsmritya. So this is repeated for emphasis because we want to know that Sanjaya is remembering. But it's also repeated because Smaranam is one of the 9 processes of devotional service, very important one. Yeah. We should always remember Krishna and we should never forget him. So this is also there for us to remember. So some very important things come out of this remembering. First, what I'll do is we'll go on to this more. I'll read what Burijan put in his commentary to this verse in Surrender Unto Me. He mentions 3 points. In 75, Srila Prabhupada explains Sanjay was able to hear and understand Bhagavad-Gita by the mercy of his spiritual master, Vyasadeva. So Prabhupada mentions that in the purport today. On yesterday's verse, text 76, Prabhupada describes the perceivable result of being able to remember Krishna. The result of Krishna consciousness is one becomes increasingly enlightened. He enjoys life with a thrill, not for some time, but at every moment. So this distinguishes samsmritya, this transcendental process of remembering, from our ordinary mundane remembering. We try to remember something, and as time goes by, it fades, or our memory might get distorted because of our desires, or we might just remembering in a scholarly way, as in the mode of goodness, we might just be remembering. But that type of remembering is not samsmritya, not the type of remembering that gives me vishmaya and hrishyami. Vishmaya means wonder, and hrishyami means thrill, really enjoying it. In this verse, Srila Prabhupada says Sanjay enjoyed remembering that wonderful universal form of Krishna exhibited to Arjuna, and that remembering it again and again, he was repeating it, he was enjoying it repeatedly again and again. So that classifies us as different from our mundane lives. If something goes on in our life, just by remembering it, we won't get more and more happy. Interestingly, Burijan also says that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he didn't comment after text 73, but he said, I made a comment in his closing remarks. He said, I made a commentary on the following 5 verses. That's 74, 75, 76, 77, and 78. In which I found the essential purpose of the entire Bhagavad-Gita. So this samsmritya is pointing us to the essential purpose of the Bhagavad-Gita. And then he says, but Lord Ganesh sent his mouse carrier to steal those 2 pages I've written. Therefore, I didn't want to interfere with Lord Ganesh, and I have not rewritten them. So interesting that he attributes a mouse taking away his pieces of paper with Lord Ganesh saying, don't write this. And but he said this in these 5 verses are the essential purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. His commentary is called Sarartha Varshini, the commentary that rains down the essential meaning. So that's what we want to gain out of our study of the Bhagavad Gita. So of course, because these 5 verses go together, Krishna finished speaking to Arjuna in text number 72. Arjuna replied in text number 73 that he was ready to do what was wanted. So these last 5 verses are continuing on and also give us a good message that it's not just concluding with the conversation of Krishna and Arjuna. We get the commentary by the devotee as well, which gives us a unique perspective of how the devotee should understand Bhagavad Gita. So this section of verses, according to Gauranga Priya Prabhu in his Bhagavad Gita notes, in this 5 verses, Bhagavad Gita is a magnificent, glorious, and enlivening message. The Bhagavad Gita is not like some ordinary book from some mundane author. It is the Lord's own potency of knowledge with which he enlightens the fallen souls. One who studies the Bhagavad Gita, therefore, experiences direct association with Lord Krishna. One who hears properly becomes Krishna conscious, and he can see Krishna in all things. Therefore, his life becomes exciting and wondrous as every step, reflecting on Sanjaya's words. When one is in Krishna consciousness, he appreciates Krishna's position as the supreme shelter of all. It is Krishna's will that is supreme. Therefore, the devotee surrenders to that will find only victory and never defeat. So the Bhagavad-Gita has begun with Sanjaya, and Dhritarashtra asked Sanjaya to describe the course of events on the battlefield, because he was hoping to find signs that his sons were going to win. And in that first chapter, the reply was coming, all these fighters on the battlefield, this was on this side and this was on that side. And it wasn't exactly saying that Dhritarashtra was going to lose. But here, Sanjay says exactly that. He says in tomorrow's verse, he says, if Krishna and Arjuna are there, that's Krishna and his devotee. And not just Krishna and his devotee. Krishna, who is the mystic, who is the supreme mystic, and Arjuna, Dhanodharaha, he's the holder of the bow. So the significance of that for us is that Arjuna is ready to carry out the Lord's orders. So when Krishna is in the picture, and when the devotee is in the picture who's ready to carry out the Lord's orders, then there will only be success and victory. So we'll just recap those 5 verses. In 1874, Sanjay confirms what he has heard and says that it's very emotional. Romaharshan, his hair is standing on end. So what's so significant, what's so wonderful about this Bhagavad Gita is that Krishna was speaking about himself and about his energies, and he was telling his energy, his devotee, Arjuna. So it's an important conversation, and it's mentioned also in the verse that 2 great souls are speaking, it will never take place again. In 1875, Sanjaya acknowledges the source of his access, Vyasa Prasadat, by the grace of his spiritual master. So we can also only understand Krishna by the grace of the spiritual master through the parampara. The spiritual master will hand down exactly as he sees it. He will hand down as a transparent via medium. This is particularly true because Vyasadeva is also a Shaktivesh avatar. So he's directly perceiving as the Lord's energy, and he's directly passing it on to his submissive and willing disciple Sanjaya. In yesterday's verse, Sanjaya was samsmritya, repeatedly recalling the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. So in yesterday's verse, he was repeatedly remembering the conversation that had taken place and the philosophy that was discussed. So this is called the joy from the message, joy from the samvad. So understanding that we listen to this Bhagavad Gita, if we listen properly, then we'll come to a transcendental position, and we will not be able to forget such talks. Such talks will come back again and again. And once we hear from the right source in the parampara, it will lead us to Krishna consciousness. One will become increasingly enlightened, and life will be ever more thrilling, is the word that's used in today's verse. So today's verse will go on to a little more. In addition to the message of the Bhagavad Gita in the 76, Sanjaya also remembers the form, Rupam Adyadbhutam, and the wonder deepens further and further. So it's not just remembering the conversation that's taking place, it's remembering the form of Krishna. And this leaves to 1878, which is conclusive. If Krishna is there and Arjuna is there, there will always be four things. Victory is one of them. There will always be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. So much is promised from the combination of Krishna with his willing devotee, his servant, willing servant devotee. So the purport is quite short in today's verse, but actually it's got it's quite significant things in it. So by the grace of Vyasa, Sanjay could also see what was happening on the battlefield. So Srila Prabhupada mentions that it was exhibited to Arjuna, but some other great devotees could see it, and Vyasa was one of them. Because he was a powerful incarnation of Krishna, and because he was one of the great devotees, he was able to disclose it in full to Sanjaya. So Sanjaya, Srila Prabhupada mentions more than once that Sanjaya saw it like a spiritual television. So he was actually visualizing what was happening. That's why he was able to see Krishna's form, why he saw it so wonderful. So three main points out of this purport. This universal form, although when we study the universal form, we found that it's not necessary for devotees if we're already looking at Krishna, the personal form. But as long as we remember Krishna's position, because the whole purpose of this Bhagavad-Gita is for us to understand Krishna's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we can approach him in the right way, that we're eternally his servants, and we approach him with a serving mood, and in that way, Krishna consciousness will be revealed to us. So if this universal form is very important for us to understand how wonderful Krishna is and how transcendental Krishna is. And it's understood through the parampara, through the mercy of the Guru, and we cannot understand by separate endeavor. And even in chapter 11, Arjuna asked to see, and Krishna says, you can see, but not with these material eyes. So even Arjuna is already a devotee. He still had to be given transcendental vision in order to see this form. So Sanjay's vision is not a second-hand account. He's actually seeing the spiritual television. He's seeing what's going on. And the very important for us as devotees is that he's enjoying it repeatedly. Samsmritya, samsmritya. So it distinguishes from regular things that happen in our mundane lives, that they don't become a source of ever-increasing ananda or bliss. And an example for us is Srila Prabhupada. We can read the Bhagavad-Gita time and time again, and every time we read it, we'll find something new and wonderful that we didn't remember before, with something new in it. So the same wonderful quality is in the Bhagavad-Gita. So we'll go through some of these points again. The key themes, the most key theme is samsmritya, samsmritya. So in Sanskrit, repetition is for emphasis. But as I mentioned in the beginning, for us, remembrance is not just for emphasis. It's one of our 9 processes in Navavidi Bhakti. So it's not a passive thing. Do you remember what you did yesterday? Do you remember what you had for breakfast? It's not passive like that. Samsmritya means that we're actively remembering. Something is so wonderful, we're actively trying to remember it again and again. So it's not just that it comes past and, oh, there, that was nice. We try our best to remember again and again. And this Shravanam Kirtano Vishnu Smaranam. Vishnu Smaranam is a devotional service in itself. So remembering over and over again is not just some ordinary memory. It's actually an act of devotion. It's part of bhakti. The wonderful form, Rupam Atyadbhutam. This is the form of Harehi, Hari, the one who removes all auspiciousness. So specifically, it's linked to the Vishvarupa. But we also want to have that same sense of wonder when we see the deity in the temple, because the deity in the temple is also transcendental and is also something very special. When the universal form was shown to Arjuna, he was trembling, he was scared, because it changed his relationship with Krishna. But Sanjaya, the level of devotional service that Sanjaya is, he's excited, he's very thrilled by this sight of the universal form. It causes Vishmaya, which means awe and wonder, and Hrisya, which means joy, happiness or bliss. So these are also uh, constituents of bhakti. There's some of the additional qualities of bhakti. So the distinction between yesterday's verse and today's verse. Yesterday's verse, Sanjaya is remembering the conversation, the samvad between Krishna and Arjuna, and very thrilled. Today's verse, he remembers the form, the rupam, a very wonderful form, and his wonder increases again and again. So this indicates to us that the Bhagavad-Gita is offering more than just theoretical knowledge. The Shabda Brahman, the transcendental knowledge is there, but the Bhagavad-Gita is also introducing us to Krishna, the form of Krishna. In one purport, Srila Prabhupada explains one should be attracted to that very form of Shama Sundara with two hands and holding a flute in a threefold form. This is the form we should be attracted to. So this whole Bhagavad Gita is aimed to get us to that point of remembering Krishna. Meditation on the transcendental form. So Sanjaya was a very advanced. He was an advanced devotee. He was a disciple of Yas. He was blessed by a spiritual master. He was not on the platform of Arjuna. He was not in a friendly relationship. He was still in awe and reverence. But he's a serious devotee, and he's a very good devotee. But he's getting both. He's getting the Shabda Brahman, and he's getting the Rupa Bhavana. He's getting the wonder at the form. So this is an ideal student of the Bhagavad Gita, an ideal devotee. We appreciate all aspects of the Bhagavad Gita. The fourth theme is the comparison to mundane memory that we have. Krishna says, I'm the source of remembrance. But our mundane memory is subject to the modes. Some things we try and remember, they fade away. This is the mode of tamogun taking charge. Sometimes our memory gets distorted. We imagine things that aren't actually factual. Sometimes two people will come together and remember the same thing, and they'll have different memories because Rajogun comes in and influences our memory by what we want to hear. And sometimes we're just on an intellectual level, which may be Sattva-gun, but it's not taking us to the transcendental level. Samsmriti is a word that means complete. So samsmriti, transcendental memory, it brings not fading, but it brings more and more wonder. Ahan Vishmaya. And this is a distinguishing characteristic of Shuddha Sattva platform. Transcendental mode brings a spiritual experience that is never exhausted. It always renews and renews itself and gets deeper and deeper. Srila Prabhupada describes the nature of Ananda in the spiritual world, ever increasing, never repetitive. We were reminded of Vyasadev's contemplation, the story of Vyasadeva in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, when he'd written 4 Vedas, he'd written the Mahabharata, he'd written the Ramayana, he'd written so many supplementary literatures, but he was dissatisfied. And Narada Muni came along. Whether he was spiritual master before or not, we don't know, but he became the spiritual master. And he said, the reason you're not satisfied is because you haven't exclusively glorified Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in text 1.7, first Narad Muni tells his own story in the 6th chapter of the first canto. And then in the 7th chapter of the first canto, Vyasadeva, he goes into his meditation, and he also meditates on the form of Krishna. So in 174 it says, thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking in devotional service, bhakti-yoga, without any tinge of materialism, and thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead, along with his external energy, which was under his control. So Vyasadeva also had the meditation of Krishna. He was, by this meditation on Krishna in his form, with Maya was behind him as a shadow, and because of that meditation, he was able to write the Bhagavatam and get the whole revelation of all the knowledge of the Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavad-Gita, in the 8th chapter, 14th verse, and Krishna says, he gives a promise to one who always remembers him. He says, Ananya Cheta Satatam Yo Mam Smarati Nitya Saha Tasyaham Sulabha Parda Nitya Yuktasya Yoginaha. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easily to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So if we become engaged in devotional service, we will be able to remember Krishna without deviation, and then we will also attain Krishna. That is Krishna's promise. And then the devotee is described in the 14th verse of the 9th chapter. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantas cha dridavritaha namasyantas chamam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So that's coming to become devotees. This process of remembering will be going on and will be continually a source of Vishmaya and Hrisya, the source of wonder and a source of happiness. So we're coming to the end because it's a little short purport, so I can't fill up too much time. I've just got some questions to ponder on. So Sanjaya accessed the vision of the whole fight and of the Vishvarupa through his spiritual master Vyasadeva. Does that enhance your understanding of the relationship with the spiritual master in any way? Any comments from the audience? Yes, spiritual master. Yes. Yes, without the spiritual master's blessings, we can't do anything. It's a very important point, and we're often prone to forgetting it. Yeah, And Sanjay did such a good job. He remembered it so perfectly and described it so perfectly. So we had yesterday's verse 1876, talking about the joy from Samvad, the joy from the teachings. And today's verse 1877, talking about the wonder from the rupa, the form. Do you have any preferences for the teachings or the form in your devotional service? Or any experience? Yeah, yeah. So when you see them, then you should take that form into your heart so you can remember it again and again. To puna puna. In our life, do we have that experience in Krishna consciousness? Then when something happens in Krishna consciousness, that we're moved to remember it again and again because it's so wonderful. And we want to keep remembering it, keep us inspired. Yes. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Well, and until we come to the platform of anattanavritti, when we've got rid of all our material thoughts and remembrances, we're not going to achieve any knowledge of our eternal form, our Siddha-rupa. But that will only come when we're purified of all our material things. So in the meantime, yes, we can, according to what according to our life, according to our situation, according to the deity that we have a relationship with. I mean, the deity will also talk to us. So it might be the deity attracting us. Not that our mind's wandering. It might be a particular deity suddenly looks at. I was in Bangkok and all the time Nityananda was looking at me. And I, usually I look more at Lord Chaitanya, but Nityananda was always looking at me. And I thought, okay, here's the preacher. Maybe he wants me to preach or something. But so this can happen just according to the deity attracting us, or according to our particular mood of worship at that time. But until we get to beyond anattavritti, until we get to firm faith, nishta. From the point of nishta onwards, we can start to get some hint of what our eternal relationship might be. Even then, we cannot say, I'm this. We should not try and put ourselves into lila. And that's for when we become perfected. So, but we can get some idea of our mood after we get to the point of nishta. But before that, we should not, we can take any experience that comes to us that enlivens our devotional service. It may be spiritually, and it may link to what our permanent relationship is, but it may not. So we can take it as an inspiration and enthusiasm. We can take it that the deity is talking to us, and another time another deity talks to us, and we try and learn from all that as experiences, and we try and take this mood of rishyami, becoming excited by devotional service and not just treat it mundanely. So just be happy. Good, thank you. Okay. So yeah, so that's basically our conclusion. Our conclusion is to try and take a little bit of Sanjaya's mood away with us and not just treat Bhagavad-Gita as a academic study. Sometimes we're told we want to go and study Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhav. But while we're studying, and as much as we can study or as much as we can't study, then we can take also this mood that we have to come to realization. We have to be excited by our study. We have to try and remember over and over again. And of course, remember, Krishna says, if we don't have the intelligence, as long as we worship Him with love, He'll give us the intelligence anyway. So we try our best to understand Krishna, and He will reciprocate with us. We try and enjoy this process. In the ninth canto, ninth chapter, second verse, we have that about how Krishna consciousness is always happy. And just now my brain's gone blank, so I have to look it up. Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, Pavitram idam uttamam, pratyakshavagamam dharmyam susukam kartamavya. So pratyakshavagamam dharmyam means you directly experience Krishna consciousness. And susukam kartam avyayam means that it's a joyful process, and we should remember that it's a joyful process, and then we'll be successful. Okay, any other comments or questions from anybody? Sure. So there are 9 processes. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam are 3 processes that particularly belong to us when we're beginning devotional service. And then, what's the order? The next part of Vandanam Dasyam. Oh no, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam. So this worship particularly comes with the worship of the deities, or even looking at the deities in the temple is also worship of the deities. So we've got prayers to the deities, worship of the deities. And then the last 3 are bringing us to the point of surrender, a relationship of service, a relationship of friendship, or full surrender. So there is some progression there. But my Guru Maharaj actually says you take these 9 processes are actually also independent, except that Jiva Goswami says that Kirtanam must accompany, in all of the other 9 have to be accompanied by Kirtanam. Like, for example, if you're doing worship, if you do it without mantras, you're just playing with dolls, or you're being sentimental. So you follow the processes of cleanliness, and you chant the mantras. And if you don't have to know all the deity worship mantras, you can chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So Kirtanam must accompany the other 8 of the 9 processes, but otherwise these 9 processes are independent. Like in the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada, there's a verse that gives the example of which devotee perfected. It's quoted in a purport here, but I can't remember which one. Maharaj Ambarish did everything, but we had Shravanam was Parikshit Maharaj, Kirtanam was Sukadev Goswami, Smaranam was, I think, Prahlad Maharaj, like that. So they perfected the process of devotional service with only one of those. So my Guru Maharaj, he made us do a chart with the 9 processes along the bottom, and up on the y-axis he put the 9 steps. Ado Shraddha Tato Taru Sagarata Bhajana Kriya Vinatana Vritti Syat. Nishta, Saktis, Ruchis, Bhav, and Prem. So he put those up, and he made us, for each one of the 9 processes, he said, decide where you are on the y-axis. And if anyone said they were above Anashana Vritti, he chastised them. He says, you don't know where you are. Because realistically, very few of us have got to that stage above anajna-vritti. We hold of some mental conceptions, even if we just that we want to be comfortable in devotional service, we want to be a little peaceful. We still want some satisfaction for ourselves. We're not fully surrendered. Of course, when we hear the devotees in Prabhupada's times, they were so much more surrendered than generally we are in these days. Like Prabhupada, when coming to Vrindavan, Prabhupada said of whom? Malati, I think, the locals were complaining about her. And he turned around and said, yes, but if I told her to jump off the top of the building, she would, because they were so much surrendered. Rachitamba and her husband were on the train with Srila Prabhupada going to the Kumbh Mela, and the train stopped in Delhi. And he told her and her husband, he said, you get off and start a preaching center. And so they got off, and they had no money, they had no contacts, they had no nothing. They got off and started a preaching center. So that's a higher level of surrender than most of us have now. I certainly couldn't do that. So we shouldn't imagine that we've got to enough liberty, but we should be able to see some progress, and particularly with getting rid of attachment to the mode of passion, getting rid of getting so upset about things that happen in our life. That should reduce as we get more mature in bhakti. Srila Prabhupada says that's the test. As we become more advanced in bhakti, then we get more tolerant of material life. And that. Yeah, so rati is sometimes have a double meaning. So the verse itself is, yeah. So after nishta comes asakti, which means attachment. And then after asakti is ruchi, which means taste. That's when we're getting so much of happiness. And then after ruchi, then comes the bhava and the prem. Rati is another name for, I think, rati is another name for prem, I think. Rati is an alternative name for some of these stages. It's not the same precise term, but it also means the attachment. Yeah, more attraction, yeah. Thank you, Jay. And yeah, that'll do for now. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Sri Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare